Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Big Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Saturday, December 16th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 bank shot best bet, as well as my all-access season pass in college hoops, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Saturday in college basketball. First up, we see Georgia Tech taking on Penn State. This one's going to be 12 p.m. Eastern, so an early game on the Big Ten Network. Now, Georgia Tech has played 2 true road games this year against Cincinnati and Georgia. While Georgia Tech's had a solid season, they have a couple of nice upset victories over Mississippi State and Duke. Both of those games were at home. In those games, on the road against Cincinnati and Georgia, 2 double-digit losses, Cincinnati 89-54 and Georgia 76-62. And I'm not really in love with that Georgia team this year, so not a great loss in my opinion for the Yellow Jackets, especially in a kind of regional rivalry game. So, I don't love this offense on the road. It's not a great shooting team. While they've been better as of late, I still worry about that against a Penn State team that I think is turning the corner now after that nice win against Ohio State. It was a home game, 83-80. We really saw what this Nittany Lions offense can be if they're making their open looks. They've been generating some pretty good shots this year, but just they haven't been able to make them at a great rate. But we saw them hit 42% from the three-point line in that game against the Buckeyes. Ohio State had an even better shooting night from the perimeter, but Penn State still won that game. They forced 8 more turnovers. They had forced 16 turnovers in that ball game, and I like them in this matchup. I think Penn State's been underrated for a while this season. They played a really tough schedule. Both teams have played a tough schedule, but Penn State, a lot of neutral site games, a true road game at Maryland that went to overtime. I think Penn State's the better side in this one, so I'm going to go with Penn State. I'm going to lay the points. Next up, we see Texas A&M taking on Houston. This one's going to be 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Should be a great game. It's at a neutral site of the Toyota Center where the Houston Rockets play, so I guess you could say it's kind of a semi-home game because it is in Houston, but I think it's going to be a really close game. Houston's been great this year. Got to give them credit. 10-0 record, 4th in the AP polls, but their strength of schedule hasn't been the best. They've only have 3 games against teams in the top 100 in KenPom. Didn't cover against Xavier. They beat Dayton by 14, beat Utah by 10. But, this is, I think, the toughest matchup they've had this year against Texas A&M, a team that has played a really tough schedule, 12th toughest in strength of schedule overall this year. They played a true road game against Ohio State and SMU, neutral site games against Penn State, Florida Atlantic, and Iowa State, true road game at Virginia, and then recently against Memphis. They hosted Memphis, but lost that game by 6 points. I think the Aggies are really underrated. I think on both ends of the court, this is a really strong team. They got one of the best players in the country in Wade Taylor. They take care of the basketball, which is really important against Houston. We know Houston's defense is super strong. Not only do they force a lot of tough shots, but they force a ton of turnovers. Number 1 in the country in turnover percentage defensively. But luckily for Texas A&M, they have a strong backcourt. They don't turn the ball over much. They're also a really good offensive rebounding team. Houston, number 5 in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. Texas A&M is going to be able to compete there, though. They're number 2 in offensive rebounding. I think this is a pretty even matchup. 2 really good head coaches. I think this will be a close game, but I think the Texas A&M Aggies have a chance to win it outright. So give me the points here with Texas A&M at the neutral site. Next up, we see Cal and Ole Miss. This one's going to be 7:30 Eastern on the SEC Network. Ole Miss is one of the only undefeated teams in college basketball right now, but they haven't played the toughest of schedules. I do think because of that 9-0 record compared to Cal's 3-6 record, Ole Miss is a bit overvalued in a spot like this. And, Cal basketball, the program has struggled. It's plainly put, it has not been great in recent years. But I honestly do believe, genuinely, that this Cal team is the best team it's had since the 16-17 season when Cal finished in the top 100 in KenPom. Cal, shot quality-wise, is getting pretty good looks offensively. They're forcing some tough shots defensively. They're a really good rebounding team, which benefits them in a game like this because Cal, while they're not an amazing shooting team in general, they are 35th in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage, and Ole Miss, one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in college basketball, 317th. So Cal should be able to get a lot of second chance opportunities in this game. Now, you worry a little bit about the Cal turnover percentage offensively. Ole Miss, pretty aggressive defense. They should be able to force some turnovers, but I think Cal competes in this game. We saw him compete against Butler in double overtime on the road in a game that, was kind of a coin flip at the end of that one. They lost by 7 in the end, but played well. They played an overtime game against San Diego State at a neutral site, the defending runner-ups in the NCAA tournament last year. Cal, they're 3-6. I think they're a really good 3-6 team, honestly. And going forward, we're going to get some value with this team, not only in this spot, but in conference play. Give me the points here with the Cal Golden Bears against Ole Miss. Next up, we see SMU and Florida State. This one's going to be a 8 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on the ACC network. I like SMU. I backed them a few times. We took them against West Virginia at the neutral site where they had the nice comeback victory. But I don't love this spot for SMU. This team has just not been tested enough in true road games. We saw their first true road game of the season, last game against Arizona State, a team that's kind of in a down year this year. And Arizona State took care of business. They won that game by 2 points. Now against Florida State, a team I think is much better than its current record at 4-4. Yes, it's on a 3-game losing streak, but it's played a ton of tough teams recently. They played all over the place as well. Neutral site games, true road game against rivals. They played in North Carolina. You know, they actually played pretty well in that game despite the loss. I think Florida State matches up well here against SMU. They force a ton of turnovers, and I don't trust this SMU backcourt on the road. I think the turnovers could be a big problem for the Mustangs in this game. And while SMU's been good shooting the ball so far this season, on the road, I just don't love their chances against a Florida State defense that's 36th in three-point defense this year. In that game against Arizona State, we saw SMU turn the ball over 15 times. We could see 15, 20 turnovers in this game, and that should be enough for a Florida State win and cover at a reasonable number. So give me Florida State here. I'm going to lay the points at home. Next up, we see Charlotte and Richmond. This one's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, when I look at this matchup and I look at these two teams, I think they match up pretty well with each other, especially with what they both look to do offensively, and that's slow the game down, especially Charlotte. You know, on both ends of the court, Charlotte 310th and 357th, respectively, in offensive and defensive average possession length. So they're looking to limit the amount of possessions in each game, and we should expect that in this game. Richmond runs that Princeton-style kind of offense with Chris Mooney, head coach, and they've been slow offensively this year. Both teams do a good job of taking care of the basketball. Both teams not really worried about offensive rebounds, so you shouldn't see many second chance looks for either of these teams in this ball game. But you know, when you're playing a slower game, when you're limiting those possessions, it makes getting points with the underdog a lot more valuable in my eyes, especially when you're getting more than a bucket. And I think Charlotte could compete here on both ends of the court. You know, they're really good defensive rebounding teams. So like I said, Richmond, pretty much no second chance looks we should expect in this game. Charlotte's a decent shooting team, especially from 2-point range. They're 66 in the country, but also they do a better job than Richmond at getting to the free throw line. And Charlotte's a really good free throw shooting team, 37th in the nation, 76.4% as a team. I think the fundamentals are there for Charlotte. They played a tough schedule, and we saw them struggle against Duke in their last game on the road, but I think it's only going to help them in a matchup like this against Richmond. So give me the points here with Charlotte. I wouldn't be surprised to see an overtime game, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see Charlotte win this game outright. So give me those points. I think they're really valuable here. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.